I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Welcome back to another episode of School Owner Talk, and we're excited that we have you guys to join us today for an incredible conversation with a true martial arts legend.
Absolutely. I mean, that's to say the least. I mean, today we have a very special guest, someone who has had major impact. I mean, major impact on the martial arts around the world, not just the martial art industry, but the martial arts in general. He's been a competitor. He's an instructor. He's a director, producer, an actor. I mean, he's done it all, and I'm super thrilled, to have him here with us.
And, Ali, before we introduce our guest, I just want to remind everyone that if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it with other fellow martial artists, school owners, subscribe, and leave us a review. We truly appreciate your support. So today, Ali, you want to introduce who we have on our podcast?
Of course. Today we're honored to have the one and only Keith Vitali, and join us with Keith as he's a martial art icon, a former world karate champion. I mean, and we're going to get into this a little bit back in the day, back in the hardcore days, right? And he's an actor, an author, and a huge leader in our community. He's just amazing. So we're going to do a quick background I could go over real quick. Dwayne, do you want to do that?
Yeah. Why don't you do that? And
okay.
Then
so just a quick introduction to Keith, and then we'll start the interview. So he was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame, Competitor of the Year, named by Black Belt Magazine as one of the top 10 fighters of all times. You got to think about this. That's incredible. He starred in martial art films such as Revenge of the Ninja, Wheels on Meals, alongside of Jackie Chan. I mean, everyone knows Jackie Chan. He did the movie The Cutoff. That's where I got to meet him. He was a star of the movie The Cutoff. He's a successful entrepreneur, a dedicated martial art advocate. I could go on and on and on, but I have two more big points. He's impacted countless students through his teachings and leadership in the martial art industry. And he is just an amazing individual. I sound like a fanboy right now, but I really do feel that way. And when I got him to agree to do the podcast, I was like, Dwayne, we have someone that's going to be an incredible guest. So I'm excited, So anyway, without further ado, this is Keith Vitali, and he is just a legend. So thanks for being with us, sir.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm looking forward to this. This is great.
Thank you.
Keith, I'm curious, just real quick, before we dive into all the questions. The start off one for me is, how did you actually get into martial arts?
I was on a track scholarship in Charleston, South Carolina. I was a runner, a distance runner, and I was a natural runner. I was not a natural anything in martial arts. I had to work really hard. But I came home I get to Columbia, South Carolina, where I'm from. And when I came back, one of my high school buddies, John Bellinger, had been taking something called karate. So he came over and he put me in the car. He drove me over. I met his instructor. And to kind of give you some kind of indication how obsessed I am as a personality when I enjoy something, I was so moved, impacted by what I saw in that first class. It was at the University of South Carolina. It's a Korean. He's got an American name named John Roper. He's phenomenal black belt. And he was working out and he was sparring. Gear hadn't been invented back in the early 70s. And I was so mystified. I had never seen kicks before, other than Kung Fu theater on TV. So here are these guys kicking and punching. And then the instructor came over to me and he introduced himself. And he said, "Do you go to school here at USC?" And I went, "No, I'm at school in Charleston running track." He says, "Well, if you ever decide to come here, I'd like to teach you." I went home. I called up my track coach, canceled my scholarship. The next day, I went and picked up my all my records. I drove over to the University of South Carolina in Columbia, walked into admissions and said, "I want to apply to USC." 2 weeks later, I was admitted, and I was now a student at USC. And I walked in and I started taking karate that way.
Wow.
My dad was upset. My mom was upset. "What are you doing dropping your scholarship?" I said, "I'll pay for my own school. I'd work." I do whatever I had to do. Back then, tuition wasn't that high, so I work at night and I paid for my own school after that until I got going, and then I wrote the charter for the karate club at USC while I was there. And it was kind of interesting because all these different clubs get money when you're at all the universities. Name a club, fencing club, track club, all of them get financed. So I walked in and I said, listen, I said, I'd like to do a presentation. And I was totally prepared. And I said, I'd like to represent the University of South Carolina and put a team together and put Carolina on my back, our backs, and we'll travel and represent the university. And I said, and we'll do it better than most of yours because we weren't famous for anything. We didn't have a good football team or anything else. And they said, well, you kind of cocky, aren't you? I said, no, I'm just saying I'll put a team together and I'll bring some recognition to USC. They said, how much do you need? And I laid it out. Here's the tournaments I want to go to. Here's, all the different, and really, to be honest with you, I was trying to get laid. I just wanted to go travel and enjoy life in college. You're a young guy. You don't care about anything but women and having fun. So I put 5 friends together. We would travel. And guess what? In spite of us, we got better. You know why? Because when you travel and train with the best fighters in the country and compete against them, you get better, even if you say, I don't want to get better. I mean, that wasn't even my mindset at the time. I just wanted to travel, have fun. And they financed our trips. So by the halftime at the University of South Carolina, I had written a book, and the book was used as the book at USC for the karate team. And then also I got an elective for teaching the class for karate at the university. And I got get this, I got credited. And at the end of your class, every semester, they have they send out, you have to give a questionnaire to all your students. And this is all the clubs, what you think about it. Is it good, bad, and whatever? It had like 50 questions. I had 300 students every semester at USC, just college students. And I told them, I said, here's the questionnaire you got to fill out, and you have to give me great marks on all of them, or I'll come hunt you down. I promise you. Now, back then in the old days, it was karate. It was yes sir, no sir, very rigid. Sir. And I said, listen, I'll hunt all of you down. So I got such good remarks from the class I taught for that one semester. They called me into the administration and going, you got the best remarks for any of the clubs in the whole university. I said, really? That's a shock. They must like the class. But I did threaten them all.
That's funny.
And then that's how it started. And then I started taking karate, and, I fell in love with it. I got obsessed with kicking, because I was only 5'11", about 150 pounds. And, and our mindset, it's hard to defend yourself against somebody 250 pounds at 6'4". You just kind of say, well, no, that person's going to have the advantage in a fight, but not with martial arts, not with karate. And I fell in love with it. And I really fell in love with something called the side kick, that technique. And I perfected the side kick, and I worked it and trained it and worked it to where, I was very fortunate. And then in Columbia, South Carolina, we had Mike Geneva, we had Michael Goldman, we had all these my brother Steve was there. We had all these martial artists, and we all would get together and train together. And we put it together, a Columbia team. And you don't see that often. You don't go to Dallas, you don't go someplace in the country where all the karate schools get together and train together. And then, because it's so competitive about, each school wanted more students or whatever. But back then we didn't care. All we trained together, and then we started traveling together. So again, it's like anything else. If you want to get good at your sport, the more you do it, you can run and jump and do weights, but if you want to be a fighter, you need to fight. Simple as that. And that's what we did.
Wow, that's awesome. So then you obviously were competing that whole entire time, and it made you one of the best fighters just from continual practice.
Well, I was fortunate because I was in this tournament, and it's kind of changed my life. And I've spoken about it before, that one small event can change your life forever.
Yeah.
Here I'm taking martial arts at University of South Carolina. I don't even know if I'm any good. I fight local tournaments, and then a few people approached me, these other black belts from other schools, and they said, we think you've got some talent. Why don't you go to a national tournament? And I went, I've only fought in Taekwondo because I was a
Right.
Taekwondo Korean black belt. And I went, I don't even, what's they said, well, want to come with us this Saturday? We're going to go to a place called Atlanta and fight in the Battle of Atlanta. It's a national tournament.
Yeah.
I never heard of it. So we get in the car, we go down. There's thousands of people there. The whole Coliseum is filled up. Georgia Tech Coliseum was packed. And I've never seen thousands and thousands of fighters. And I get there, and it's a true story. My first fight, all my friends from Columbia are there because it was nice that they believed in me so much. They came to watch me fight. They thought I had some potential. And I fight a guy from Ernie Radar Smith School. He had the checkerboard stuff back in the old days. And I'd read the magazine, so I knew who this guy was, but I'm fighting his student. And they said, go, get this. He beat the crap out of me for the entire 2 minutes. I've never been embarrassed in my life. He would just hit me at will, sweep me, hit me. And again, at that stage, he was so much better than I was. And, and I just went, I'm not that good, but here's the thing. With 10 seconds to go, the timekeeper, the judge goes, time. He goes, how much? Because there was a break in the fighting. And the timekeeper goes, 10 seconds. And he goes, what's the score? He goes, 4-0. I'm losing 4-0. And my first thought was 4. I thought it was 40-0. This guy beat me so much. How does he only have 4 points? So next thing you know, here's how blessed I am. I have a blessed life. Everything we talk about today, I am actually blessed. It was the only time in martial arts tournament career history, they awarded 4 points for a jump spinning kick. A point for a punch, 2 points for a kick, 3 for a spin kick. But if you could jump up in the air and spin, hit a guy in the head, we'll give you 4 points.
Wow.
So here it is, 4-0, 10 seconds. And I faked jump spinning kick, kicked him in the head. Now it's 4-4. And the guy just looks at me. I hit him in the head. Now I beat him 5-4 and I win the fight. Well, the guy's just like, did I not just beat this guy up for the whole 2 minutes? And then he walks away. I don't even think he took karate ever again. He probably quit. I hope he quit. I hope I never see the guy again. He was that good. But what happened was those 10 seconds changed my life.
That's great.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, either that or he's frozen.
That very well could be.
Oh, I was just now hanging on, man. You were frozen for a second.
You were frozen, yeah.
Oh, sorry. He opens up the magazine, this guy named Mike Anderson, and he goes, do you know who you beat today? And I went, no. And he says, you beat 4 of the top 10 fighters in the nation today.
Wow.
And I went, that first guy? He goes, no, the first guy wasn't even rated. I went, well, that's the best guy I've ever seen. And I didn't know who those fighters were. Larry Carnahan, all these names at the time. I just went through them. You know why? Because I didn't know who they were. I didn't care. If I had known who they were, I would have been tentative. If you're tentative, you don't fight full speed or whatever.
Right.
But so I went on. I lost to Bobby Tucker in the grand championship fight. But my good friend Mike Geneva made the observation. He said, if I had lost that first fight, it would have changed my destiny because I didn't think I was that good. I would have gone back. I was going to be an attorney. I would have gone back to USC. I would have studied law, and I might have fought in a tournament, a local one. I know I wasn't going to go to another national one. I know how good they were. But if I had lost that first fight, my whole life would have gone in a whole different direction.
Wow.
It wouldn't have been martial arts at all. But those 10 seconds where I said, screw it, let's just go for it. And I did that jump spinning kick, and it changed my life.
That's amazing.
My
That's
whole
a great
direction
story.
went to, yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah, and that's hopefully for the people who are listening, whether they're 90% of the people who listen to this will be martial arts school owners, but we do have it on iTunes so anyone can listen. Just listen to that as an owner. Like these little moments are what makes the world change, right? It's the little moments that makes the difference on what we do. And that's why I get so discouraged, Dwayne and I running martial arts schools. A parent allows their kid to quit. He doesn't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, but they're so talented. Don't let them stop. Well, I don't want to force them. Like, I don't want to push them. And then we end up losing. And I go, man, another waste because that kid had the potential to be amazing. And it's sad that happens.
I love martial arts so much that if I was president, I would mandate martial arts in every school and beginner schools. screw the high schools. Already by then they're twisted. But all the beginning schools, I would have it, and it's not so much you're not learning kicks or punches. You learn, of course, all the tenets of martial arts, respect and discipline, all of that, and it's needed so much. But it's never about the big moments. Who cares if I won a big tournament? I won a bunch of. Who cares? Nobody cares. It's those small moments. It's not giving up. That 10 seconds, and guess what? All of us watching this today have that 10 seconds in their life. We've got to make a decision. What are you going to do? You're going to quit, stop. But it's not. It's those who persevere, who don't give up.
Yeah.
And those 10 seconds are the little things. I used to have martial arts schools, and I was very successful. I loved it because I take pride in that. I had some of the best students ever as fighters, but I had some of the best students as just coming into class because I believed in my program so much that martial arts can change the world. That again, I would mandate it for all schools in America. And when parents would come to me from time to time, Johnny wants to do whatever. Yes, let him. I'll always save his time and be here. But this program is worth, if I had to put it in monetary terms, it's worth $1 million. I'm going to charge you $1 million, but this program is going to change your child's life. Yeah. And they're going to look at us, because they have so much peer pressure at school and they're affected by what they see on TV and the movies. But guess what? I'm going to be that strong role model in your life that's going to keep your student, your child, on the path of success. And guess what? They're going to listen to me more than they're going to listen to you, Mrs. Jones. Yeah. I guarantee you. They're going to listen to me more than anybody because they have respect for me as their instructor. Yeah. As a matter of fact, they have to bow, call me, Mr. Vitali or Master, whatever the case might be. But they have respect. So when I say something to them, they're gonna believe it. And so if I can be in their life, their guiding life, and guide them in a way that's positive, I said, what's that worth to you? They said, what? You spend more than $200 on your lawn, on your fertilizer. Who cares what the fuck? I said, but I'm going to change your child in a way that it's going to change his entire life. And so do you let an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old dictate his life? Or do you dictate it? Everybody wants to quit from time to time. Just work with them, but you know how important this is. So this is one of those times where you bring it back to the class and you go, Johnny, I know sometimes you get bored or whatever the case might be, but this is so important for you. And then it's up to the instructor to teach a class in a way to excite them, to bring them back. But I guarantee you, I taught classes and I have so many great, I've seen and been impacted like by Mike Gentleman. There's so many great instructors out there that when you teach a great class, it motivates you and you want to come back. I mean, I quit my karate school. I quit my track scholarship in one day to come take martial arts because I was impacted so much. Yeah. And that's why the instructor cannot be lazy. The instructor, and the world's changed. I see, excuse me, for half the people watching this might be, I see instructors with rings in their noses and faces tattooed and fat and out of shape. And I always tell the parents, if that's what you want for your child, I'm not judging. If that's what your child's going to be like, I promise you, because they respect the instructor so much that they're going to be so much like the instructor. They're going to want to imitate him in everything in life. His mannerisms and how he holds himself and the respect. And if he's got rings in his nose, guess what? Your son's going to one day have a ring in his nose as well. Yeah. I have nothing against rings in the noses. But just not for me. Yeah. I want that instructor on the mat. I want him being a representation of somebody that kid can look up to. Now you can see I'm an advocate for martial artists. I love it. I'm the one that you would hire to come in and go, I've taught in charter schools. I've taught in the worst schools in Atlanta, and they've had me come in. And one time I went to a school here. It was so bad. It was an underprivileged school. And when I got to the school, they wanted me to teach a course to see if I could help change some of these bad kids' lives. And I walked down the hall. I had never seen anything like it before. Kids screaming, cussing, screaming the F word everywhere to their teachers. And when I got in there, I said, give me 20 of your worst students, the ones you can't teach. And they brought them in. They were disrespectful. They sat down. One was snorting glue in front of me. And I started the class. I grabbed the glue and I smashed it against the wall. And I said, close the door. And I started yelling. I go, you're going to stand here, get an attention. And next thing you know, I was barking orders like a drill sergeant, and I got him in attention. I said, you don't move a muscle. And get this, the way I taught them. And then first it was, I had to be tough with them, and they enjoyed it so much. In 30 days, most of the teachers came in, administration came in to see what I had done with them. And all the teachers that watched these kids perform, all the teachers started crying. They couldn't believe it. They said, "You've transformed our worst kids into the most positive, wonderful students we've ever seen."
Right.
I said, well, first of all, I gave them hope. Second of all, I gave them discipline. And then the teacher says, "But we can't do that. We can't discipline them." I said, "Well, then you're going to have a problem." And that's why private schools have the right to discipline your kids. They get out of line and say, "Well, go someplace else." In public schools, sometimes their hands are tied. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
But by having discipline in their lives and parameters, and I gave them hope, and I worked them, believe me, these kids that were the worst kids in that school became the best kids in that school. And that's a metaphor for life. You can take anyone, it's down and out or whatever, and give them hope and give them parameters and discipline, and you'll be surprised the potential of that child.
Well, it makes a big difference. I know Allie and I talk about the fact that we think that martial arts is the last line of defense for the kids in our country right now. We really do.
100%.
Sadly, though, we're now up against parents that don't want to discipline their kids. They don't want to push them. It's funny. I always look at it look, if I'm hard on my students, the parents want to have a conversation with me because I was hard on their kids, rather than years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, those parents would come to me and thank me. Some of them would pay me and say, "Hey, if you have to beat them, you beat them," that kind of mindset, right? That's what they wanted.
No, you're up against a whole generation of a different type of children, because of this. I think the schools have been poisoned so much with a lot of the teachers that now they have no control of the kids. Right. The kids are in control of the mental house. And, but back then I would always tell the parent, I go, bottom line is this: you're going to need a strong person in your life, your child's life, that's going to keep them on this path, because I promise you, they're going to be impacted, influenced by their peers at school, or bullies, or movies they see, or TV shows, or whatever. And all of this is hidden them. I said, but guess what? You got one person they respect in their life. You go, "No, you will not do that. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol.
Yeah.
You stand in that straight line. You don't move a muscle, and they're disciplined." And the secret was, I always had that straight lines, and I always almost regimental,
Yeah.
Subconsciously, you're watching it, and when the straight lines, and I had them do a couple moves and back, and and then subconsciously, you don't know why you love it, but you love it. Whereas you can have the best students in the world, if they're jagged around and moving around and doing stuff, they're not in unison. You go, yeah, they might be good kids, but there's something I don't like about it. So it's always that regiment, and almost like a boot camp, but it's not boot camp. It's the wrong analogy, but military, I had them but that's what it is. It's the martial arts. It's not, this is not kindergarten. This is martial arts. Stand still. Don't move a muscle. And for my kids, the games were my favorite part. Simon Says and all the games. The Simon Says game is the most important game of all the games I taught, because it taught the kids to concentrate and focus. Right. And most people, the kids, and you guys are instructors, this. You go to school, you're looking out the window going, "When's lunchtime? When am I going home?" But Simon Says forces you to pay attention to the instructor. And when you pay attention, he's trying to fool you. So you got to focus. And I always tell my kids, your goal is to focus on your instructor. And I want them so uneasy. You're not your instructor, but your teachers at school. I want you to focus so much that it's uneasy for them that they'll make a comment going, "Why are you staring?" I mean, I don't even understand it. Because most kids don't, but that's the thing. I'd go, "All right, Simon Says punch, whatever it is, do the same thing with your teachers. You'll freak them out."
That's amazing.
I took acting classes from Jeff Goldblum in California when I was an actor.
Wow.
And I was in his academy. And he freaked me out because he paid attention and he would listen to me. And I was uneasy because I'm trying to take acting classes from him. He's such a good instructor, coach. He's a great actor, but he listens to what you're talking. He pays attention. And what his acting style is, when you give him an emotion, his emotion comes back parallel to that. So if you're angry or mad, he's got the facial expression of that. So his acting is to mimic and to really listen to that person. And it was so much so I had never spoken to even a person who listened to me that much. And he would listen. I said, this is kind of, he goes, yeah, he says, most people, they'll do this or gather around or whatever, but he pays attention and he'll really focus on what you're saying. I go, I'm not even used to this.
Wow.
So I'm curious about the acting piece. Like, how did you go from, college to, school to acting?
I was very fortunate. Again, I'm so blessed because all of us came up in a time where the magazines took the people who won tournaments or just stars in the martial arts and created stars. You know how you create a star? You do an article on them and then you put them on the cover. Then you distribute that magazine, not just here in the country, but all over the world. And then people watch and they read the magazines, and then that's how you create stars. And so during my era, we had Official Karate and Karate Kung Fu, Karate Illustrated, Black Belt magazine, all these different magazines. And if you did well in the tournament, they put you on covers. I had a good career. So I was on like 13 magazines, within a year or 2 year period, covers. It's those covers. So Canon Films, Menachem Golan, who owns Canon Films, he was starting a new company in California. And he went on to do 100 movies, his production company. But he says, we're looking for somebody new. So he sent out somebody working for him, Priscilla McDonald, says, go to the bookstore, magazine store, and just see if you can see some fresh faces. And she saw me on a couple covers. And then she calls me up. I love this because I was teaching class. And I'm teaching class and they come and get me and they go, there's somebody on the phone. So I go to the phone and they go, hi, my name is Priscilla McDonald. I am a producer from Canon Films. We'd like to offer you a movie called Revenge of the Ninja. And I went, oh, that's great. Tell Mike Jenna to kiss my ass. And I hung up the phone and I walked back on the mat. She goes, so I'm Mike Jenna. I don't guess you know who Mike Jenna is. He's one of my best friends. He's real famous in South Carolina, but he competed with me, but he's a prankster. That's what he would do. This wasn't even a Monday for him. That's the kind of stuff he would do to everybody. So a minute later, they come back and get me off the mat. And they said, this girl on the phone wants to talk to you again. So I go back up and pick up the phone. I go, hello. She goes, first of all, I don't know who this Mike Jenna guy is, but if you hang up the phone to me one more time, you're going to lose this movie contract. And I went, excuse me? And that's how I started.
Wow.
And then they offered me, but they discovered me on magazine covers. And I did well those years competing. And then for the magazine covers, I went in to do my first film. Who could be more blessed than me to do my first film? Is called Revenge of the Ninja. It gets picked up by MGM. First movie to get picked up by MGM. And it's distributed in every theater in the country and the world, all over the world. So full page ads in every newspaper. And that first week when it came out, we had Risky Business. We had 4 or 5 of the most iconic movies you've ever heard. Star Wars, all these movies came out at the same time. And our movie was number 3 that week.
By the way,
it just had that much of an impact, the ninja impact.
By the way,
uniform.
I teach ninjutsu and love anything about ninja, and it was inspired by that movie. So, so you're like the start of my career when it comes to ninjutsu. You were one of the biggest influences.
Can you believe it? I know, and I love the fact that one of my good friends back at the time was a guy named Mike Stone, who came up with the concept. He wrote the first, End of the Ninja movie, and so he wrote it, and then he was kind of in it, but then Revenge of the Ninja is the one that hit big.
Yeah,
and I spent time with Mike Stone, and what a wonderful career! I was so blessed to get my first movie was a major hit, and then I'm working out. I'm hanging out with guys like Chuck Norris. I'm going because I wanted to train with the best. And I go down and I'm spending so much time with Mike Stone. He taught me how to play golf, how to play racquetball. We do things together. So I'm influenced by Mike Stone. He just left his affair. Remember, he took Priscilla McDonald. He was married to Priscilla McDonald, who was with Elvis Presley at the time. So he was a big sensation in LA at the time. And then, I spend time with Joe Louis, train with Joe Louis. And of course, everybody trained with Bill Wallace.
Yeah.
And then, so I had Chuck Norris, Mike Stone, Joe Lewis, and Bill Wallace as my mentors coming up, working out with. So even again, you can't even write a script like that for people older in the martial arts. That's the foundation of our whole
Yeah,
martial arts. And for me to be able to
absolutely.
work out with all of them and then hang out with guys like Wally J and Michael D Senior and Junior,
Yeah,
all those different people, and so I everything I touched, I was blessed because I was at the right place at the right time.
amazing.
But you still got to earn it. You still got to do it. You just can't be there. So all of them influenced me different ways, but what a wonderful career.
Well, that reminds me of this last Friday at our staff meeting. I had done a drill with my instructors, and I just did luck versus skill. And then we went through, and I said, I want you to give a percentage in your life. What do you think the percentage is for luck and the percentages for skill? And then I had different questions that we went through. But anyways, after going through everything, we were like, yeah, it's probably 50-50 because, if you don't have the skill when the luck presents itself, then it's just going to be a fading thing. And it was just really neat. So it's kind of to your point, the fact that, you have to continue to work hard, and then those opportunities, luck, ends up when they do present themselves, you can capitalize on them. And that's exactly what you did.
And that's well said. You got to take advantage of the opportunities when they come. And then the magazines dried up. They
Yeah,
started getting these tournaments started awarding world championships, world titles. So world titles for 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, all different belts. So now you've got hundreds of thousands of world champions in our country, hundreds and thousands of them. Everybody's a world champion. And so it watered it down so much, the word world champion, the words world champion, the magazines, I knew the owners of most of the magazines back then, it was all tight knit, and they just said, we're going to quit promoting tournaments and martial arts. We'll
mm,
put Bruce Lee on the cover of all of them. We'll
yeah,
just, because people like more Asians on the covers anyway. So we'll just do that. So they didn't follow the tournaments. They didn't put, martial artists on the covers any longer. And then they quit creating stars. Right now, I don't know if they got one league or 50 leagues, but nobody can tell me who's the world champion or
right.
tournament. Nobody knows anything because back then, it's antiquated. It's a long time ago, but we had a bunch of magazines, but all we had one rating for the national champion. And I was fortunate to be the number one fighter for 3 years. And I had people coming up to me going, no matter where I went in the whole country, they go, listen, I've got your poster or your cover on my wall in my bedroom. Because when I wake up, all I can think about is killing you, beating you. And I go, you know something? That's the best compliment you could ever give me. I said, I
Yeah,
love that I'm their driving force because it's only one driving force is me. If you want to get top of that chain, you've got to go through me to do it. And
nice.
I really enjoyed my career because I was fairly talented with my legs. And if you got great legs, and get this, I learned from a guy named Joe Lewis taught me something before anybody else knew it. But I'm training with Joe Lewis in the early 70s and I'm not moving. He goes, well, you can move. I went, no, I can't. You're not allowed to move. You got to stand still in your stances. He goes, no. He worked out with a guy named Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali that said you could do that. Now, how's that for an impact? Training with a guy who just trained with Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee. He says, Keith, move. And so now I'm moving. Oh my gosh, moving. You mean I don't have to stand there and let bigger guys just crush me and hit me? Gear hadn't been invented yet and hit me real, powerful. So I started working on movement and I became obsessed with movement, my sidekick, movement, my sidekick. And I could hit you so hard with the sidekick on one side, I'd make you hurt on the other, bruise on the
Mm,
other. And believe it or not, my instructor was crazy. He was literally just, I love him to death. He's passed away. But back in the old days, in early 70s or late 70s, we had people, early 70s, coming from these all over the country because Fort Jackson is in Columbia, South Carolina, where I went to USC. And merchant marines and all these people come into school and challenge because back then, Kung Fu theater, you challenge people. So these black belts would come into school and I challenge you. Well, here's what my instructor would say, Vitali. I'd go, sir, now I'm a white belt, no gear. Get in here, fight him, kill him.
yeah,
Most of them I got killed because I'm fighting merchant marines or guys twice my size.
right.
So I had to develop my sidekick. By the time he kept me a white belt 1 year and 2 months, at the end of 1 year, 2 months, I had broken 52 people's ribs for the psychic. Not the same guy, 52 different people coming into our schools, and he'd count them. So I just had it to where I could move. And once you gave me that little bit of opening with that heel, I just had it with that psychic. I could just pull it in and just crush you. And so guess what? I'm a distance runner. So I've got the best lungs that you've ever seen. I can run 20 miles. That's what I did for scholarship. I'm a distance runner. So now I've got the strongest legs you've ever seen. I got the best cardio you've ever seen. Nothing to do with me. It just so happens I was a runner. And now you give me a sidekick and let me train with the best people in the world, training with the best people in the world. And then next thing you know, I just emerged. And then I just, my psychic, I tell them, I don't care who you are. My psychic stops rain. It stops. I don't care day or night. I don't care what you do. I'll hit you so hard with a sidekick. There's nothing you're going to do. There's nothing. And the whole idea is, in order to hit me, you got to open up, and I'll move. But once I get that open, I'll crush you. And so having that as a benefit, and know that when I fight you, I'm going to be in better shape. And I've always told people I can beat up Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and their dads together all at one time if they just stand still and they're tired.
Right.
And they're tired. Well, I have movement. Yeah. You know how you get so tired you can't move? Well, I can beat you up when you're tired. Yeah. So what I did was I would pressure people because I could fight all, I could just go. In 1 2-day period, 2 major tournaments. I won a grand champion in one, flew and South Carolina, flew to California, and then did another one. And I fought, they said 18 times in 2 days. So I could just fight all the time.
Right.
Because of the cardiovascular. Sure. And confidence.
So real quick question, by the way, amazing stuff. I'm like just listening to you and just in awe. So thank you for sharing with us. But I have a question. When did you transition from that into the acting? You gave us a little bit of that. And when you did, was that your main focus? And then the second part of that question is, do you feel like the movies today are not quite like what they were when it comes to like a martial art film was based off of martial arts, right? Now every film has martial arts in it, but it's not a martial art film. The only thing that really kind of comes close is like The Karate Kid or Cobra Kai or, so what are your thoughts on that?
You actually described it perfectly. Back in our era, it was called the golden era of martial arts films. If you wanted to see a martial artist, you had to go to a martial arts pure film. That's the only place you're going to be able to see it. Then, all of these guys had great kicks. John Van Damme, and you just name all the people back then. All these great fighters back in our day, but they all had martial arts. Cynthia Rothrock, Gary Daniels, Richard Norton, Lauren Avedon. They were in karate movies. Yeah. And people that love martial arts went to karate movies. Mm-hmm. Well, it got so popular that they started putting martial arts in every action film.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise does martial arts. Women, everybody does martial arts.
Yes.
So you don't have to go to the martial arts films per se to see martial arts. That was the big difference. And it changed because now we still have some of the best martial artists I've ever seen in my life. I've got a friend of mine, Scott Atkins. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this guy. There's some people out there that can do things, but they're trick stars now. A lot of the new ones now do a lot more acrobatic stuff.
Right.
Jump, flip, stumps, and the whole bit. I just put on a clip on Facebook the other day. It's one of my clips. It lasts like 3-4 seconds. It's from No Retreat, No Surrender 3. I'm fighting the bad guy. And he hits me here, and then he punches me, and then I do a pirouette, and I fall on the ground. And I always tell people, I go, how long do you think it'd take for me to learn that pirouette? And people go, you're probably a good athlete. You probably pick it up in 1 day or 2 days. It wasn't even me. It was a stunt guy. That was when we had stunt guys back then. But now you have special effects and green screens and everything else. So it's all changed. But back then, I still had I did so many different films. With Keith Strandberg, we did the seasonal films, and we had so many where the Chinese stuntmen were just great stunt people.
Yeah.
And I loved it when they'd come in and go, all right, ready? And the punch would come in and go, stop. And then the guy would come in, put a wig on, and then he would do the pirouette and land on just incredible stuff. He says, we don't land on the desk. We land on the corner of a desk. That's how they were, their mindset.
Yeah.
But I loved it. But you're right. It's changed a lot. But there's still good people out there like Scott Atkins and then Cynthia Rothrock, she did Black Creek. She just produced a new movie
I
and
can't
put
wait to
all
see
these
it.
older guys in it, and Keith Cook and Richard Norton, and all these guys in it.
Yeah,
And I
Stephen Hayes is in it too.
well, he didn't actually show up. He did actually, yeah, no, Stephen Hayes did come.
Yeah,
I interviewed him on my podcast as well. Stephen was in there. You're right. I like Stephen Hayes a lot. He was there.
great guy.
But there's so many martial artists from our era that they put in there. Benny Urquidez, and that's how they got me. Cynthia called me up and she says, "I'd like to put you in the film." I said, "I don't want to do the film." She says, "Just do one cameo role." And I said, "Okay, I'll do this. Because my first thing I ever did was with Richard Norton. I fought Richard Norton in a film where I was just a stuntman called Force 5. I said, I would love to do a film where all I do is walk by, like in the bar scene, since it's a Western. I'd love to walk by and like bump into him. He turns, looks at me, and I look to him, and I walk away. And I go, "She's great. We'll do it. Sign the papers. We'll get you in. You're in the film." So now she says, "Oh, by the way, you're fighting Benny Urquidez in the film." And I went, "Where did that come from?" I thought I was walking just to bump into Richard Norton.
Yeah.
"Oh, no, you're fighting Benny Urquidez." So we had a really nice fight in this film. And I did Wheels on Mills with him. He was in Force 5 as well. Yeah. So my third film with him. And I spent so much time with him in Spain when we did the Jackie Chan film, Force 5. I mean, Wheels on Mills. So to reconnect with him again, and I think one of the best compliments I've ever had, just film-wise, it's never about my acting, but my wife, Kathy, was driving us from the hotel to the set for Black Creek. And Benny Urquidez was in the back seat with Keith Cook. You know who Keith Cook is? He's just one of the best martial artists you'll ever see. Phenomenal. And as Benny and I were reminiscing and talking, Keith Cook said, "This is the best day of my life. I can't wait to get home and call my wife and tell him I'm in the car with Keith Vitali and Benny Urquidez." He says, "I can't even believe it." And Keith is bigger than both of us. His career is better than both of us. He's a better athlete than I ever was. He's big time, but he's going, "I just can't believe I'm in the car with you two." So, and people on the set were almost teary-eyed to watch Benny and I back in action again. And it was great. I really enjoyed the little scene they put together. So I enjoyed the whole.
That's
whole
scheduled
film.
to come out soon, right?
They don't tell me anything. I have no clue.
Yeah.
So
you didn't even know you were going to do a fight scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was going to do a fight scene in it. And I was like, but what the heck, who cares? I've done a couple other films since then, little cameo roles in films and fight scenes. Nathan Gearing is another up and coming producer from England. And he came down here, put me in a little quick fight sequences. I did. Why? I don't care. It's fun now. Even then when I was an actor, my pursuit wasn't acting as much as the martial arts and running the schools. It just was an offshoot because of it. But I enjoyed doing it.
So I see the cutoff behind you on the shelf, the picture from the cutoff. Yeah, that's there. So that was a great time in my life where I was able to film. Thank God for Michael DePasquale, because he was always giving me opportunities. But I was able to film for like 3 weeks at Screen Gem Studios with you and Joe Lewis and it seemed like every martial artist at the time that was out was in that film. So it was such a great time.
Yeah. Sean Flanagan and Ron Sukarate, and Tony was there. Then we had, of course, Wally J and Mike. And Michael, Michael DePasquale and I were close for 20 years, whatever. But his dad and I were even closer.
Yeah,
we had exchanged history books and talked history all the time.
Yeah,
and to be on the mat working with Michael D. Senior and Wally J at the same time, that's like heaven for me. Yeah, that's like be like somebody now. I don't know who would you'd be with, but. That was heaven. I'm with two of my icons, and they're working out with me. And then I've got Bill Wallace and Joe Lewis and Mike Stone as my other ones, and Chuck Norris.
Wow.
If I'm not blessed, nobody's blessed.
That's the
truth.
truth.
Then to be able to have my background and my legs, my endurance, and then I have to win an attitude. I mean, and where I got that from was Mike Stone. Mike Stone, he's tough on me. He would be tough. You are. Don't think about it. I don't want to hear you try. You can't even say I'm going to try. You are it. You have to say I am. No, I don't want to hear that. He's really tough. No, Keith. You be that person. You are that person. If you have any doubt, you'll never accomplish it. Put in your mindset now, because he works on a whole different mindset of variance frequencies and vibrations that he spent 40 years in the Philippines now studying, writing books on,
Wow.
that you can emit these vibrations and these frequencies and you can become what you want to become,
That's great.
but to have that mindset. So when I fall, I, this is my mindset. I wanted to win so badly. I mean, that's what you do when you compete. I
Yeah.
had that mindset and I just had some great legs. Well, guess what? My I didn't have great legs. I was impacted by Bill Wallace. He
Hmm.
taught me the great legs and other people as well.
Yeah.
And I've got Chuck Norris with that mindset. I could have been Joe Louis. I love Joe Louis, but he was an asshole half the time to everybody.
To
Most people
me,
couldn't,
to me especially.
yeah, to everybody. And I go, Joe, quit doing that. He go, oh, he had no patience. He was so frustrated in life because great example for people listening to this. He was the best looking, had the best build, and the
Yeah.
most talented. And his two other friends were Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee. They all started together, but guess who didn't make it? Joe
Yeah.
Louis as a big star.
Yeah.
And I said, Joe goes, he's so frustrated. I said, Joe, you had the benefit over everybody.
Yeah.
Look who you are. I said, but it was your attitude that pulled you down. Your
Yeah.
attitude is as important as your physical ability in
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
You got to be positive. And he just wasn't. He was just sarcastic. And I enjoy working out with him. I mean, him and I had words sometimes.
Yeah.
I go, put your gear on. You're an old man now. I'm a young man. But we were young. He'd have killed me. But to have him teach me certain segments, and then that's life. Is you want to benefit from the people and be very positive, and it's that positive energy that you emit. And guess what Mike Stone's theory is? Positive energy is called frequencies. It actually reaches out to other people with the same frequencies, and that's why your friends. You don't even know why you're friends, but your friends are like you because you go, hey, you just automatically gel with them. When he says, Keith, that's your positive energy going out, and theirs meeting together. I
Right.
I I love that. That's a whole different, stratosphere of me learning from
Yeah.
him now. He's got books on it. I spent hours with him teaching me this.
That's
But
great.
there's certain people I just connect with. I go, wow, guess why I connect is our energy is so much alike.
Yeah, that's great. So we ran like, wow, so quick. We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
what are a few closing things that you could give us some final takeaways? Like, maybe share one piece of advice for school owners and, martial artists like that, and, maybe help us there.
Well, again, I was going to mention I have my own podcast called Psychic Podcast, hosted by me. It's on YouTube. I have my channel, and my whole idea of this was to impact in a positive way. I wanted to reach out to all these film stars and directors, producers, and martial artists, like so many of Danny Lane and Super Dan Anderson, Mike Geneva, and Mike Stone. All these great guys I've interviewed. Scott Atkins I've interviewed. And what I tried to do was I wanted to celebrate their lives on my podcast.
Mm,
I'm terrible at it. All I do, I just tell stories like this. I'm not polished as you guys are. You guys are great. But we would tell stories. But my goal is to leave a legacy for them. And I think if you can think in the mindset, not so much for yourself, but how to help others, and how a small act in your life that you think is small is so important in their life. When Chuck Norris would take the time to say something, do something with me, he doesn't remember that. But he doesn't realize I will remember that for the rest of my life. When
yeah.
Richard Norton would teach me an acting technique or whatever, I said, Richard, thank you so much. He goes, when did I do that? But he doesn't understand that small moment changed my life, impacted
Wow.
me. So your actions that you take that you think are small when you're meeting people and your attitude, it has a direct residual effect, compound effect that is going to change their lives. And better than anybody as instructors of the lives you've changed. So I've always known that at an early age. And so at an early age, I try to impact people in a positive way, say positive things. Even when I would beat somebody in a tournament, I'd shake their hand and go, hey, you're a great fighter. Well, guess what? That guy remembers me for the rest of my life. Instead
Mm,
of me saying, oh, you suck. It's that positive energy, being positive, and knowing that the smallest thing that you think is small in them, by shaking their hand, looking to them in the eye to eye and paying attention to them, is so small for you. cost you nothing, but yet they're going to remember that the rest of their life. So if you can work on your just not so much you personally, but on how to create a better life for other people and to be positive, you'd be surprised that 30, 40 years like me now, my legacy, nobody knows what tournament won. Nobody cares. The movies, but it's how I interacted with them and how I treated them.
Hmm.
And it's the relationship I have with them that is golden for me. I have hundreds and hundreds of friends now, and that's life.
That's awesome. I usually extract quotes from people and I write them down on paper and I put them on my wall. Most of the quotes are from Dwayne because he always has great quotes, but I just wrote down small moments you spend in others may change their lives forever. Keith Vitali.
I'm gonna write that down too and use it. Some of my quotes.
That's gonna go
I'm
on.
glad I said it.
That's going on my wall, but I have it right here for people
Yeah.
who are watching. They can see I wrote it down. It's backwards, but thank
Oh,
you so
good.
much. Thanks for showing me and sharing that with us. So, Dwayne, we're running out of time. So, do you want to do some wrap ups? But since it was an honor, and we maybe in the future, if you have time, I know you're a busy man and want to come back. We'd love to
We'll
have
do it
you
again.
on. Yeah, we'd love to have you. I mean, we've had some great guests, so we would love to have you back again.
Wonderful. No, I'd love to do it. You tell this is my life. I enjoy it. And the martial arts end of it is more important to me than the film stuff. Film stuff
Right.
was fluff and I enjoyed it. I love it's the journey, but I don't even see the films half the time.
Yeah.
Like the cutoff. I never even saw it. I don't care.
Yeah, and great. I'm again. I just had such a good time spending time with you. I was one of your bad guys, your bodyguard things in the film.
Right. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, it was so much fun. So, Dwayne, you want to wrap it up?
I do. Just real quick, two big takeaways for me. One is, be aware of when your 10 seconds are.
Right. Who you're helping?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, the 10 seconds, he had 10 seconds left in that fight and that changed his life. So be aware of when your 10 seconds are because you don't know when that's going to be. And then I think that's the second thing that I took away from today was the fact that, it's the connections that make the biggest difference and leave the biggest legacy. So, and what I mean by that personally is when you said, Keith, that, you have stories about the connections that other people have made with you that they don't remember, but you definitely remember. And, that's going to leave that legacy. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and thank you so much too for taking this opportunity. For being on our podcast and talking to me and remembering me and being able to work with us again and chatting. And I think it was just so much fun. I mean, it revitalizes me. It reminds me so much of my early martial art days, like when I would be inspired by actors like yourself on the screen, and then I'd go home and try to replicate those moves. It's kind of a sad generation now because I'll ask my students, have you ever heard of Bruce Lee? Have you ever heard of Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, Jean? Right. They have no idea whatsoever about any of these people. And I have a screen in my dojo and I'll open up and put on a fight scene of Bruce Lee. And they're like, wow, he's really good. I'm going like, how do you not know about, the industry, we don't have that anymore. Like, that's what my life revolved around back then.
Right. Well, you've got to be the Bruce Lees moving forward in other people's lives because they're going to look at you, they're your students, like you're Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And so you just got to be that positive force. And again, I think, Dwayne, you said it best too. I really take advantage of the little small moments now. And I don't take little things for granted. When somebody says they want to meet me, I go, I don't have time or whatever. I take the time. Oh, hey, it's nice meeting you and saying hi. And they remember that. And I go, how can you remember that? I don't even remember even being in the city, but they remember everything about it.
Yes. That's awesome.
Well, guys, this has been fun. I don't mind doing this again. So
yes,
in the future, let me know when you want to do it again. And
I will be in touch,
so
and I'll send you all the links and the information where you can watch it and replay it and share it, maybe on your podcast or whatever. And Dwayne, we should cut a clip out of one of his movies and put it on the advertisement for this. That'd be great.
That's right. And then Keith, real quick, would you give your podcast out again so that the listeners, and I'll also put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's called Sidekick Podcast, hosted by me, Keith Vitali, and it's on YouTube. And again, my whole goal in life is just celebrating people that I interview their lives. I just want to have them leave a legacy, because the whole world's changed right now.
Absolutely. Well, to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe, like it, share it with others, leave a review, and don't forget to visit schoolownertalk.com for more great content and past episodes.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Sensei.
Guys. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school. We will see you next time.